Hello and welcome to another bite-sized discussion brought to you by the Sussex Collaborative. I'm Joe Lynch. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Lynsey Devon of Publicity. Lynsey has been running PR campaigns for over 25 years and brings with her a wealth of knowledge about PR and the benefits it can bring to any organisation. Hello Lynsey, welcome.
Hi Joe, good to see you.
So Lynsey, as you know, I've been working in marketing for most of my career. Can you explain how does PR fit into the total marketing mix?
Well, when it's all said and done, Joe, PR and marketing really are working towards the same goal, increasing brand awareness, educating audiences, increased thought leadership, better industry positioning, and actually customer loyalty. It's just a few things. Of course, modern marketing has changed the way we do our practices. But one thing that's constant is that we all want to get a story out to larger audiences about a brand or a company. And we should produce sort of content from PR and marketing, which really gives customers our stories. And through the media, that's what PR does, it gets it out to a bigger audience. So really, the best answer is it's a mix, it sits within it. And it's the goal, I'd say all together, you mix it all together, you've got this great opportunity of brand communication, making brands more credible, and to make everybody think about the greater good for the marketing of a brand.
So why does PR make a brand more credible than perhaps other forms of marketing?
The reason is it's third-party endorsement. So when a media person, a journalist, or might be an influencer, it depends which way you're looking at it. But from a PR, from a pure sort of journalist perspective, it's third-party endorsement. They experience it, they try it, and they can put their expertise on it. So it's not just you selling and shouting at potential consumers or clients. We're saying it's best. What happens with a journalist is they are telling you with their expertise why it's best for your group or your clan of people.
Okay, so that independent voice really adds value over and above a pure advertising type message.
Absolutely. I mean, it resounds better with readers. And the other thing to think about is when you open a newspaper, generally, you may look at the adverts, but your eye is always brought to editorial and people who actually know what they're talking about. And you follow, in the end, you end up following people. It's the same online newspapers, same with online magazines or whatever it is. It's a voice of authority. And that's what every brand really wants behind them and needs. Actually, it's a free way of earned PR. PR, you're not paying for it. The consumer knows you're paying for it. And so it's much better to have it as a third-party endorsement.
So with the fact that you're perhaps not paying for that coverage, how have PR strategies been adapted during this last year when there's been so much uncertainty and budgets have been squeezed, in some cases, down to zero?
Yeah, it's been really interesting, to be honest with you, because, everybody needs to still get their messages out there. That is really key. So what happens at this time? So what has happened generally, a lot of people have looked for news stories within their businesses. I have an expertise in travel, for example, and there has never, ever been so much news as there has been currently. Whatever the government says, there is a story there for every single company. You can be shouting about different things. So company communications has changed a lot because every day is different. But as long as you know your stories, you can always get them out there. And I think that's the important thing. And again, it's about the return on investment. It's about knowing that people will then have that pent up demand. So an example is travel. The cruise industry was decimated last year. And what happened now is, for example, one of the cruise lines came out yesterday and said, we're going to do cruises just around the UK, which is unheard of, But that means the people who've been vaccinated, particularly the age range who will probably go on that sort of cruise, have now been told something that's really useful and they can go out and book it. So that's the sort of communication that's really good at the right time. It's all about timing, always about timing.
So you have to be more agile and more responsive than perhaps traditionally PR campaigns were. Perhaps
Well, you
you
see,
need this planned 6 months in advance.
yeah, well, PR generally is very agile, especially when it comes to crisis communication. That's one thing we are trained in. We're very good at reacting to things and crises, and this has been a huge crisis. So I would say PR has been really good at coming up with the stories, the angles. It may not be the traditional that was there before, and we've all had to find different ways of working, but it's definitely something we're used to. So I think, yeah, PR, people who work in PR have really had you can either put it as a really interesting time or quite a challenging time.
Yes, interesting and inverted commas. Yeah. And when an organisation is thinking of using PR or adding PR to their mix, where should they start? How do they get that exposure?
Okay, so I suppose the first thing is working out, if when you are the company, is working out, what you want to get out there, and planning that. Now, in all different organizations, the most important thing is to implement a strategy. So the best thing is to actually take on a PR consultant if they want to have a
Obviously.
look at that, obviously. And the best thing to do is to really look at what the goals of marketing is, what the goals of the business is. And it's like anything else, having key performance indicators. It is really important tapping into things. So tapping into trends, for example. Like the government, as I said we can go on an international holiday on the 21st of June. So there's a tapping in trend there that everybody who's working in travel is tapping into. So what they need to do is everybody needs to really think what makes them different. And also you've got to work out how to establish your reach. What is your reach? Who is your consumer? So your marketing department or the director of marketing should have all of that. And then we can start identifying stories, key moments in time. We'd have the right media list. So, it depends what your organization is, depends who you want to hit. We have to craft the pitch. We have to have a project timeline, all the normals that you would expect, and having the key messages to get out there, and set and implement the tactics, really.
And would you say it's an outdated opinion that PR is often seen as, dare I say it, somewhat fluffy, and it's the least measurable of all of the marketing activities? I know of clients who have said that we like doing PR, but we just don't know if it works or not, whereas other disciplines I can measure down to the nearest pound and pence how they're performing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's slightly different. It's not quite the same as anything else, but these days, you can use quite a lot of metrics with your Google Analytics for the online things. But at the end of the day, what it actually comes down to, and I always say this in travel, it comes down to bums on seats, awful expression. But a lot of our clients can see the return they get by the bookings they get. Now, it's not always direct. It could be 6 months later, it could be 12 months later. But if you're not being talked about in the media, nobody particularly knows you. So again, it's really important to be out there and to be seen. And you can measure certain things, but not everything, unfortunately. And it depends what you want. I think all of our clients, they want to be seen in their target audience places where they can be read. Or they want to be seen online, or they want to work with a certain influencer. Slightly different with influencers, you can track it all because you can see exactly what's going on there. So it's a mix, definitely a mix.
Yeah. You're obviously a very experienced PR in the world of travel. Do you help clients in other industries, and are these principles transferable to every other industry?
Most of these are transferable completely. We do work with strategy for other industries, but we won't implement it for them. My passion and love is the adventure outdoor travel industry. So that's where I get my complete kicks from. But I will definitely, we're definitely happy to help with strategy and to give you ideas and suggest who to work with. I think that's the other point, is because there are people who are well known for certain things, and you want to work with somebody who's known by the media. That's the other point. You want somebody who's recognised.
Okay. And if somebody is looking for help, Lynsey, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, they can always get hold of me through heavenpublicity.co.uk's website, or Lynsey, spelt bizarrely, Lynsey at heavenpublicity.co.uk.
Thank you, Lynsey. And of course, this information and the contact details for Lynsey are also available on the Sussex Collaborative website. Lynsey, thank you very much for your time today. It's been a great pleasure chatting to you. Let's hope for the continued recovery of all of our industries.
Thank you, Joe. And yeah, ditto.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.